cybersecurity. You know, your network connections, the pages you visit, the files you download. You should be thinking about these all the time. Welcome to And Security for All. Your host is Kim Hakim. We're here to help you understand, in general terms, how and why your cybersecurity should be kept in check. Now, here is Kim Hakim.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Kim Hakim, your host. Welcome to another episode of And Security for All. As most of you know, I am also the CEO of FutureCon Events, and we put on cybersecurity conferences all over North America. And last night, I just got home from Omaha, Nebraska. And let me tell you about Omaha. It was amazing. We had a packed house. It was literally standing room only. Had great attendees out there. It is so fun to go to some of these Midwest events because we just get the best people that come out to see us. So thank you for all the people out in Omaha for supporting our event, and we can't wait to be back there next year. We are, me and my team, a few of us, we're heading out to RSA out in San Francisco on Monday. We're super excited about that. We just go out there really just to see all of our sponsors and our speakers and all of our friends. It's nothing we have to do, which is a nice break for us. We're actually, we are hosting a bourbon tasting at the Chieftain Irish Pub next Wednesday night over by the Moscone Center. So if anybody is interested in attending our bourbon tasting, it's going to be a ton of fun. We have our bourbon host Pops that many of you all have met at some of our private bourbon tastings. And we have the VP CISO, Ken Foster from Fleet Corps. They are conducting the tastings at that event, and it'll be a fun time. So just DM me if you would like the code to come. We'd love to have you at our event, and we'd love to see you. The theme at RSA this year is Stay Stronger, which really ties into our topic today. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of cybersecurity training, which goes right along with everything FutureCon is about. My guest today, she's going to be on our panel at our Philadelphia event, which we're going to be in Philadelphia on May 6th. So if you're in the Philly area, check out that event at futureconevents.com. Chances are, if you're not in Philly, we probably are coming to a city near you soon. So today, my guest is Dr. Dele Bankole. Welcome to the show. Did I say your name right, Dele? Welcome to the show. Did I say your last name right? We went over that.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much. And yes, you said my name perfect, crystal clear. Thank you so much for having me, Kim.
It's so great to see you and have you on the show. We met, I think it was like the first year of FutureCon out in DC when we had Dr. I just went blank.
I know. I can't think of her name either, but she
I
was
know.
great.
I just thought of it right before the show. Well, she used to be the CISO at the White House. And that's just kind of her code name. I'll think of it before we wrap up the show. But that was way back in the beginning, way before COVID. And saw you recently out at DC, and we had a really packed event out in DC, and that was a great event too. So we're excited to have you on the panel in Philadelphia.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I love all your events. They're just very personable. Lots of people who want to, make sure that the cybersecurity field is pushed forward, protected. So I'm very, very, very excited about Philadelphia.
Well, that's awesome. And Philly, we have the buy-in of all the nonprofits there. And our keynote speaker has been telling us that there is a buzz on the street about us coming to Philly. So we're super excited to be at that event. It was Dr. J, my team.
Yes!
Dr. J, because it's Alyssa, and I'm not even, it's like Abdul. I think she's working actually for MasterCard now and doing big things over at MasterCard. So she's a rock star, another female rock star in the industry. So tell us about you, and how long have you been at the Center of Employment Opportunities? How long have you been there?
I've been there for under a year.
Okay, because where were you when I first met you? Who were you working for then?
Yeah, so when you first met me, I was working at Customer Value Partners. I was their senior manager of compliance and security.
Okay. And now, what are you doing for the Center of Employment Opportunities? Tell us a little bit. Well, before we even jump into that,
Yeah.
one of the things I love to do with my guests is just kind of tell us your story and how you got into
Sure.
cybersecurity. And,
Wow.
especially I love hearing from women because, I've been doing this for 25 years. And a long time ago, we would see maybe 2% of women in the audience. I can't say it's gotten now we're probably at about 20%, but so I
Yeah.
love talking to women in cyber. So tell us a little bit of
Sure.
how you got in this industry.
Absolutely. It is a love story. So of course, finished high school. I'm going to make it as brief as possible, but
You
it's
don't
a
have to. We have lots of time.
okay. So finished high school, wanted to go to, of course, wanted to go to college, and I could not decide what I wanted to major in. Just to let you guys know, I'm a first generation American Nigerian or Nigerian American. My parents, migrated to the United States from Nigeria. So growing up in a strict household, my mom at the time was like, well, you can pick either one of two things. You can pick either being a nurse, because she was a nurse. Look at that. Or you can do computers, because they heard that was a, great field to grow in and grow. So me, I don't like to see pain. I don't like to see blood, so I'm like, computers it is. So got my bachelor's degree in computer networking. So of course, now we're done with school. Now throughout school, please note that I did work as well. However, when I finished my bachelor's degree in computer networking, I was working in the finance. So think, accounts payable, receivable, invoicing, all that great stuff, customer service. And so, but I had graduated with the 4-year degree. So I'm like, oh no, we're going to find a job in IT where it's happening. Whether it kills me, we're going to find this. We spent 4 years learning about token rings and network protocols. And oh no, we're doing something. So eager. And with that drive, I started going to different, job fairs. And that's how I landed my first gig in a network operations center. So I would say my first intro into the cybersecurity field is working in a NOC, known as the Network Operations Center. Worked in a NOC. It was a very interesting time because, when you work in a NOC, it's a very heavily technical position. So, I monitored network utilizing various intrusion detection systems. We did incident response and reporting. We worked with varying CERT teams. A couple of us doing this, I hated it. I said, what is this? Why? Oh my gosh, because when you work in the NOC, you're working 10 to 12 hour shift. This cannot be my life. I'm looking at a computer. Now, as you can tell, I'm a people person, love working with people, different backgrounds, different fields. I'm on it. That's me. That's my love language. So, I decided that, what? I'm going to make lemonade out of lemons, and I'm going to make the best of this. This is my first, formal IT job right out of college. So we're going to make the best of it. So at that time, I noticed that a lot of staff who came into work in a NOC were mostly entry level. We did not have any type of formal training program. Look at that, how it feeds into today's topic. And so I'm sitting there like the only training program that they had was to sit a junior person, again, entry level, next to somebody who was a senior person who had been there for a year longer. And the staff, the junior, person had to take a pen and a piece of paper and take notes. That was the training program. If the staff, the senior member clicked on this, that's what I need to click on too. If you reported this incident, that's what I need to report too. And I'm just like, oh yeah, this math is not mathing. So I start to document everything. I start to document all our intrusion detection system tools. I started to talk to our team about how to communicate with one another. I started searching out different training, avenues. The training budget was not as robust, so we had to find free training. And that's pretty much how I got into cyber, start documenting everything, and now I was happy. So now I was just like, yes. So mind you, I was doing my job, my 10 to 12 hour NOC duties. But on top of it, just to make sure I get through the day, I was now bouncing out, documenting, talking to people. Yes, this is how I use this tool. It correlates, that feeds. And while doing that, my boss at the time said, Dele, there's a field called, and I don't know if anybody out there remember this, is called certification and accreditation. So this was my official introduction to the information security field. We called it certification and accreditation. So my boss at the time at the NOC was like, yeah, there's a field called certification and accreditation, and you will be perfect at it. And I'm like, wait, what I'm doing for fun? It's a real job. Oh, let's get it.
That is so, that's so funny. Were you one of the only? Were there other females, or I mean, you took the reign by the. I mean, that's awesome that you just
Yes.
I'm sure so back then the pay probably wasn't that great, so you really had to, to have that kind of drive is amazing.
Correct. The pay was, so you're absolutely correct, Kim. The pay was not that great, but the drive, like I said, mixed with, getting a degree and wanting to work in that field, because I have wasted.
Oh,
excuse me. And it was going to work for me. But yeah, it was equal number, both men, and women, but it was more of a highly technical role. So yeah.
So then you left the NOC, and sorry, Dele, we're having a little bit, your internet freezes up a tiny bit, but hopefully that was just a little glitch. But so you leave the NOC. Now, where did you go from there? And were you always in DC? Is that where you grew up?
Yes, I was always in DC. So I grew up in Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland. That's a hop, skip away from DC or Virginia. Yes. So most of my roles have always been in the DC area. So I left the NOC. Mind you, please note, I did work in the NOC for almost 3 years, and, started updating my resume with the things that I did in the NOC, not knowing that I was doing, certification or accreditation type roles, not knowing that I was doing cybersecurity. And there was a man who gave me a chance. I will never forget Mark Logalbo. I know I have to say his name. I have to put him on the spot, but he was the individual that gave me my first chance of being a junior certification and accreditation analyst.
That's awesome. I think we can always remember the first person that gave us that chance. But yes. I just wanted to do a shout out to Harvey News. He is out of Houston, and he is big into privacy, and he is he did run their ISACA chapter, but he's a big supporter of our event. So thanks, Harvey. It won't be long before we're back to Houston, and we'll see Harvey out in Houston. So so then you go to so then you finally kind of get your start, and now let's jump start to where we are now. What exactly, first tell us a little bit, because I guess, being in DC, there's a world of opportunities out there. So you could go any given direction out in DC. So how did you, end up taking this job at the Center for Employment Opportunities? And tell us a little bit about what they are doing.
Absolutely. Oh, these are great questions, Kim. You're going to have me talking well over the hour, but okay.
Good. That's what we want.
So so fast forward till today. So please note, I have been in the cybersecurity industry going on 23 years. I have had the utmost pleasure and opportunity to serve in every kind of role that cybersecurity entails. I've been an engineer, hands-on technical solutions. I've been a junior cybersecurity analyst, mid, senior manager, and now up to my role as the director of IT security at CEO. Now, I got this role because with my background, 20 of those years were served in government consulting or government contracting. So I am very appreciative, because the government does not. So if you want to jump into government contracting, they will teach you, and it will stick for the rest of your life. So I say all that to say, 20 years. So for a lot of people who know, about government contracting, it's a hustle, hustle and bustle. Like, you start on a contract, it's supposed to be a 2-year contract, it ends in 1 year, or it's a 10-year contract, it ends in 5 years, or there's ones where I started a 2-year contract and it ended in 6 months. The task has ended, due to whatever the limitations that presented itself. So just imagine doing 20 years of that. So I will say, I got exposed to different environments, different departments. I mean, think Department of Transportation, Social Security Administration, Department of Labor. I've been to CMS, Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services. I can go on and on. So I will say that consulting or contracting, whichever word you choose, has really shown me how to hit the ground running, how to adapt quickly. So with that, I'm like, after 20 years, I'm like, you know what, I've paid my dues. I now want to go into more of a non-contracting industry so that, I can settle down and grow roots. I do have aspirations to continue to grow within the cybersecurity realm. So fast forward, that's how I ended up at Center for Employment Opportunities. And what we do at CEO, our mission, it also ties in with what we do on a day-to-day basis. We provide employment services to individuals who have recently returned home from incarceration. So, reintroducing them, training them, all the stuff, that comes with it.
Well, that's pretty amazing. And you guys are based out of New York or
Yes,
out of
yes.
your
Headquarters
base?
is in New York, but we're
And
in.
how big is the company?
Oh, so we're all over the United States. We're at about 650 employees at the
Oh,
moment.
okay. Okay. And so what are you primarily in your role? What are you doing there?
Yes, so pretty much everything cybersecurity, from our policies, ensuring that our policies, procedures are documented, cybersecurity training, incident response, working with vendors to ensure that we have penetration testing. So we because the cybersecurity program is pretty high level. Cybersecurity is in everything. So we're not just siloed in the background and just popping up whenever we have a deliverable or a task assigned to us. I work with program management. I work with clientele services. I work with finance. So just making sure that at every level and at every department of our organization, we are cybersecurity sound.
And so how many people do you have on your team?
We're going on about 15 people.
Okay. So you're nationally doing the training of the whole organization?
Yes. When we talk about training, we're talking about role-based training. So the whole organization. So based on your role. So I grew up with the NIST family. So NIST 853. I knew NIST when it was 823. For those of you out there who are cheering us like, oh my gosh, I remember when 800. I'm sorry, I said 823. 826. For my veterans out there, who know 826, that's where I was brought up on. So, now we have the 853. So so I oversee our role-based training. So ensuring that staff that has, significant exposure to PII, personal identifiable information, make sure that they're trained right to ensure, safeguard measures. I also train our whole organization on annual security awareness, and when you think of security awareness, you can think of it all: secure password, multi-factor, authentication, et cetera, et cetera.
So even though the Center of Employment Opportunities, so they're helping people find jobs. You're not really, dealing with the candidates. You're dealing with the staff.
Internal staff, correct.
Because if somebody's coming out, anybody that was incarcerated, I mean, you're not like whoever they go to work for is where they're going to get their training from. I would imagine you guys are just prepping them for
Yes. Prepping them.
opportunities.
Yes, resume prep, interview prep. Yes, and with that comes, with their information comes sensitive data, right?
Well,
That we
that's
have to.
where I was going to get to. Where is the weakest link? Where do you find like what keeps you up at night of I got to get this done. This is really,
Yes.
becoming a little scary.
So, and that's why the importance of training comes in. I have been privileged to see, like I said, cybersecurity from, when I first entered 23 years ago. We went from manual processes to now varying automated processes. And what keeps me up at night is ensuring that staff know what to do. We deal with a lot of sensitive information, addresses, phone numbers, different other factors that if an employee, does the wrong thing, it could be catastrophic for organization. So training, if you have a security incident, let's say, so as an example, I lost my corporate laptop, who do you report it to? when do you report it? Because I'm sure there's PII data on that laptop that you lost. You don't wait for 3 days. Let's say you lost
Oops, we're having a little
Friday.
bit.
No, oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, you freeze up a little bit, but you're good. You're back now.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I was giving an example of incident response. So let's say a staff member loses their corporate laptop. Stressing the fact that we have report times. You have to report it immediately. So let's say you lose it on a Friday. No, you do not wait till Monday to report it. So that's why I always say training is important. Some people just don't know. And I'm just using the, reporting as an example. Some people just don't know. And yes, you can have policies and procedures, documented rules, documented standard operating procedures, employee handbooks, very necessary. But what I've come to see is that everybody has different learning styles. So while you have some people that don't mind breaking open that, that book, that procedure, that policy, there are others that need to be, verbally taught. Hence why, cybersecurity training program is very important. So that's what keeps me up at night.
So this is kind of turning the corner a little bit, but what are your thoughts about Chat GPT? And especially when you're with an organization that has to write so many policies and you're helping people with resumes, and there is now this new avenue of doing things a lot quicker. Are any of your employees worried about their jobs because of Chat GPT? And what are your thoughts about Chat GPT?
So, at a high level, I feel like any technology or automated services that come into play only enhances the manual processes that are still there. So I say all that to say Chat GPT is a phenomenal function. I met with my CIO the other day, and the words I described it were, it's Google on steroids.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just, I personally, and this is just my point of view, I don't have any opposition to Chat GPT. It's a cloud-based offering. And you do have to provide, username and a password. So the only concerns that have came up and that I've again spoken with my CIO with is that, we have to now make a decision, because right now it's free and it's publicly accessible. Do we want our employees to use their CEO, email address to create that profile? Or do we want them to use their personal, email addresses to create that account? And I state that to say LinkedIn is a phenomenal example. LinkedIn is not a corporate system, right? It's not a corporate application. So even though I work as CEO, I have my LinkedIn account that's linked to my personal account, and whatever happens, happens. But, as we're talking about, and each the thought of, let's say, our staff using the Chat GPT features with their own with their corporate email address, that that gives me a little bit of concern, because let's say, knock on wood, because nothing is perfect, and security incidents, it is what it is. Let's say they get hacked, so now they have access to our to that email. But no, overall, no, I don't feel like ChatGPT is going to, take their jobs away. The staff that supports these people that were released from prison. I don't feel like, I just feel like it'll enhance it.
And I feel like Chat GPT is so new, on the, that people are talking about it. I have not had the opportunity or the time yet to go play with it. I can't wait to find the time, because I think, there's like, we're revamping our website. I think there's great
Yep.
things that we can do to, get our wording better on our website, and just, all kinds of opportunities. I don't know, I've had some people on the show that feel like, the bad actors, that's where, we're going to have issues, is, what they're going to do with Chat GPT. But I would just think it would be a great tool for you, especially when your employees are trying to build resumes. But do you want the people that you're going to employ, you probably need them to learn how to build their own resume. And so now here's an easy out for them to get their resume built. And that, again, is probably, just like it's going to do for students. How are people going to learn if we have an easy way out?
True. And, and in addition to that, sensitive information. So yes, you're using ChatGPT to build your resume or write your paper. Don't put your name and your home address and your cell phone number and your personal number, because again, the data that ChatGPT is ingesting, it keeps it. So, you're looking for, a better cover letter and you put it in there and it blurts out all, this phenomenal cover letter. You copy, you paste it, and you go about your business. Well, even though you've deleted it in ChatGPT, no, it's in there for good. So yeah, so I mean, just like you said, it's a new technology and, everything is to be determined, but, we can do our best to stay as vigilant as possible. So, and I also know that ChatGPT is going to come out with a, with a pay feature. So for instance, if corporate entities, want to integrate it in their infrastructure. So that's something else that, we'll cross when that bridge gets
Well,
here.
yeah, of course it's going to come out with a pay. It cannot stay free to the public forever. It's just too much of a hot commodity for them, for Microsoft to, because it is, I believe it's a Microsoft tool, isn't it? May have lost Dele again.
I'm sorry, I'm back. Sorry.
Okay. I said, I believe, is it a Microsoft tool? I mean, I know Microsoft has a platform for it, but I'm not exactly certain who owns Chat GPT.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I feel like it is Microsoft, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah. Well, if it's Microsoft, we all know that it's just a matter of time before, and my guest that I had last week, we were talking about Chat GPT, and if you go to Bing, which is like Google, so I think maybe they're trying to compete with Google. And I know there's features of Chat GPT that you can go into Bing instead of going to Google. And I went on Bing, but I haven't gone any further to try to see what's out there. But there's stuff on there that says you can use Chat GPT here. So it's very interesting, the whole Chat GPT, especially, for companies, for policy and all the things that you guys are doing. And do you feel like it could better serve some of like your initiatives that you're trying to continue to enhance? Or I don't know. What do you think what do you think like NIST? What do you think they're going to do when there are even analysts? Do you think they're going to use this tool when they're trying to stay ahead of what's happening in cybersecurity?
Absolutely. So yes and yes. So first, I definitely think that Chat GPT will be very useful. At the compliance level, policies, procedures, SOPs, they're all needed, they're all necessary. So oftentimes, or let me say sometimes, there's some organizations that implement a new software and they don't have the correct documentation in place, because we want to create an environment where and again, as another example, let's say we have an engineer that leaves, the role goes to another organization. Now the knowledge transfer did not happen and now we don't know what to do. But, now we have Chat GPT to assist with, how do we use this tool? It was implemented, but we don't know how to use it. Our engineer left. So in that retrospect, also in policy development, that's where I believe a lot of the organizations are lacking. It has been my experience that operationally, varying security standards are implemented on a day-to-day basis. They are doing them. They are implementing complex passwords. They are monitoring the network, antivirus scans. It is happening, it's just not documented. So I believe that ChatGPT will be instrumental in creating such, documentations for those efforts. As far as for NIST, absolutely, because you can ask ChatGPT anything. And as you know, NIST, they have a different subject matter expertise to cover all of those controls. So privacy analysts, educators. So, when they put, the NIST 800, and I'm going to speak to 853 specifically, because I know that, we have the NIST cybersecurity framework, but my extensive experiences with NIST 853, there are a gamut of different SME subject matter expertise that they utilize to put that information together. So again, will ChatGPT replace their subject matter expertise? No, I just feel like it'll continue to enhance.
Well, that's interesting. So now kind of going down a different role, being that we're talking about cybersecurity training, what are you doing with your employees and what is your policy, with social media and what they are doing while they're working and the, employees that might be on TikTok at work, what are your thoughts about social media and what are your policies at the CEO? What are your policies about social media?
Yes. So oh my goodness. I feel like there needs to be a new term for limited personal use or very limited personal use. So we do have a very limited personal use policy, at our organization. And I've seen this across other organizations. But again, coming from a government background, yeah, the government, they were not playing that. But LinkedIn, and just like you said, now we haven't really had an issue with TikTok. So it's mostly been LinkedIn, that people want to stay connected and all that good stuff. And then on the corporate side, we also have LinkedIn Learning. So we do have those policies. We implement corporate device, only utilizing corporate device only, no personal devices on our infrastructure. Again, just to ensure that we keep cybersecurity resilience in our organization. Yes, we have varying monitoring tools. Yes, we have different security compliance program in place to ensure that we're consistently on guard. But at the most basic level, the more that we train and educate our staff and our organization, the better we'll be security-wise.
Just a quick correction. Stan Molinsky and also Megan on my back end told us we're wrong about that. Chat GPT and Al chatbot was developed by OpenAI and released last November. So I am not educated at all on Chat GPT. That's why I love, for even our listeners out there. Thanks for your input on that, Stan, because again, it hasn't been around that long. So it's a very definitely interesting topic to chat about. But going back to TikTok, and is the Center of Employment Opportunity, is that a government owned company? Is that owned
We're
by
nonprofit. No, we're
okay.
nonprofit.
Okay, so if you're working for the government, you're not sitting around on TikTok all day, I imagine.
No, not at all.
I was in the Navy for, 6 years. Back then, we didn't have social media. We didn't even have cell phones. So there was nothing to do but work back then,
I was going to say, when I was in the government as a contractor, TikTok didn't exist. But I can imagine, though, if you're stepping out, lunchtime or, a break, you can, obviously take your personal phone and do what you need to do. But yeah, within the corporate systems or the government systems, absolutely not.
How do you know, though? How do you know that your employee, first of all, are most of your employees on site since COVID, or do you still have a lot of remote workers? Oops.
Sorry about that. Do you see me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. No, we have, so I would say we're half and half. So we do have in office and remote. Half and half.
So how do you know that an employee is not sitting there, working on their laptop, but they have their AirPods in and they're not listening to a podcast on YouTube, about Vanderpump Rules,
What do you know about Vanderpump Rules, Kim?
Unfortunately, way too much.
So I mean, that is a very good question, Kim. I mean, that's one of the I would say one of the challenges, right, of remote working. This is where trust comes into play. This is where monitoring, their day-to-day work. So of course, we have, different teams have their status updates, their project that they're working on, their timeline. So, this is I can't give you a straight answer because everybody does what they want to do, especially in a remote environment. But I feel like with the other factors we have in place of, their work that they're doing, the quality of their deliverables, I feel like it would probably be okay with that.
Yeah, it's just we live in a new time, and
Yeah,
it's hard. It is about trust. I my entire team is a very young team, and but I have an awesome team, and we're all remote, but we can't get our jobs done if everybody's not doing their job.
correct.
So that's everyone. Yeah, I would think, but I'm a smaller company, so I rely on everyone that does their job. We're not going to have a great event if everyone's not doing their job. So how do you develop that in a larger company where you are all across, the United States with several different offices?
Yes. So I will say that CEO specifically, they implement phenomenal, and I don't even know how to call it, status updates, meetings. We have our weekly touch points. That's the what I was looking for. We have our weekly touch points. We have our off touch. So in addition to the regular touch points, you have your, oh, let me just ping, and I'll use myself as an example. Let me just ping Dele and see what's going on. Let me get a status update. I know I touch base with her every week, but let me just see what she's doing. Let's see if there's any progress in a specific initiative. So I will have to say we heavily rely on the leadership team or the management team of varying staff. Yeah, because just like you said, we are a larger organization, but that trust, has to be built in. So we trust you until you show us otherwise. And like I said, we lean in on our senior leadership, team and our senior management team for that.
It's so funny. We talk about trust, and oh, we may have lost Deli altogether. But hopefully she'll be back oh, she's back. We talk about trust, and it's so funny because we are an industry that's so, talks about zero trust all the time, but yet we are forced. We have to trust, our teams and the people that work for us until we can't, until, they prove us wrong. So,
Correct.
it
Correct.
how many so how many, like, give us roughly how many employees do you have at CEO?
About 650.
Okay, that's a really large, organization with only, what'd you say, 15 people on your security team?
Yes.
Wow. So what next? Like, what are some of the projects that you're trying to work on right now to improve your security posture? And what kind of tips can you give our listeners on some of the successes that you've seen?
Absolutely. So I would definitely have to say, at a very high level, implementing a cybersecurity program. So our CIO has a phenomenal vision, and we are progressing towards aligning to the NIST cybersecurity framework. And it's so interesting because when I bring up, frameworks and compliance and cybersecurity resilience, I have a lot of my practitioners out there who are just like, oh my gosh, that is just another check the box, check the box, check the box. Well, I mean, yes. However, you have to start from somewhere. I've noticed a lot of different industries, they want to start a security program, they want to begin a robust compliance program, and they just don't know where to start. So instead of starting something, anything, they're just like, oh, that's okay. I mean, we'll be fine. We have not been hacked. We're good. And I'm just like, no. This is why the importance of training, number one, is very important. And implementing a cybersecurity framework for your organization is also very important. The framework, even though there are security controls that you can utilize to audit your organization, you also use those same set of controls to build your cybersecurity program. So we're talking access control, physical access control, we're talking contingency planning. What happens if your system were to go down? Do you use a vendor? What happens if the system that your vendor operates goes down? Who do you contact? Do you have an automated tool to track the? So yes, there are a set of controls, and yes, there are checkbox. But once you check them off, you'll be in good standing.
So, what kind of training are you doing with phishing attacks and training your employees? Because I
Yeah.
just, interesting, this week while I was traveling to Omaha, Southwest had a big, this doesn't have anything to do with the phishing attack, but it comes after. They had a big data. I don't know, it was all over the country. They of course were saying it was a crew thing, and then I got an email like 2 days later apologizing for their data that went down for hours on Tuesday. But then I got some pretty suspicious emails from Southwest that I wasn't sure if they were Southwest. So somebody also took the opportunity to turn those into phishing emails. So how are you staying ahead of that?
Yeah. So pretty much that gets addressed during our annual. So we have two sets of security training, annual security training. So we have our very first one, which I lead, over Zoom, because we're across the country, where we teach them about social engineering, phishing. Don't just click on a random link. Did you get a suspicious email from somebody that you thought was your boss? Well, pick up the phone. So we train them. So that's the first part. And then through that education, then we also have other security awareness training in it. So I do the live one, and then we have one that we use, a learning management platform, where we just reinforce what you've learned. Change your passwords. If you're unsure about an email that you received, it's okay. Pick up the phone and call. Ping. We have multiple collaboration platforms. Don't be scared to pick up the phone and call to confirm. So we're addressing that through that. So, phishing exercises. And of course, after we do the specific trainings, we also do tests, just to ensure that, they were paying attention during the trainings. And, so we just give them a short quiz at the end. And we feel like that has been effective thus far.
When we were during COVID, I had a lot of CISOs. We were doing these bourbon happy hours that sponsors were sponsoring, and it was a virtual thing. And it was a really fun time for those 2 years to get all these, 12 CISOs together. And it was not, we would just talk about scenarios and, things that were, what they were doing. And one of the CISOs from one of the larger financial institutions, they would do cybersecurity every quarter. They do training, and if people passed, like, they would always give away. They had the funds to be able to do this, but they would reward the people that passed the test, that didn't open the phishing attacks, that they would send out to their employees to see if they would not open it. So he said that people got excited for cybersecurity training, because now people had the opportunity to actually win something, and it was it was something different. But I could see, if I wasn't in the industry, what I got from Southwest the other day, because they said they were giving vouchers away because of this. And one of these emails said, attached is your voucher. Well, I knew I already got it at the airport, but I wonder how many people opened that thinking, oh, they made a mistake and I'm going to get a different, I'm going to get another voucher. And if you looked at the URL, it wasn't Southwest, but I'm sure a lot of people were fooled with that. A lot of people probably opened that attachment. So how do we get around that? How do we continue to, put that message out there? You got to look at the URL and see. I still have an email in my inbox right now. I'm very confused if it's really from Microsoft, and it says Microsoft, but it doesn't make sense to me about something about my password. So I just haven't had time to, really look at it, because my inbox is insane. But again, I'm knowledgeable about it. So how do we continue to create that training with the people that aren't in the security industry to watch out for these emails?
So again, just create that training. Kim, I've stated, like, we have documentation. We've documented it. We have an information, security policy and procedures. So it tells you this is, look out for this. Don't click on that if you're unsure, but sometimes a lot of people don't read those documented, steps or procedures or strategies. So training is essential. So the quarterly training you mentioned about the previous organizations, fantastic. Training. I know it sounds simple, but there used to be that ad in the 90s. It's called The More You Know.
Yeah.
So that's all we can do for now. And I will say, at a global scale, I'm very proud of how far our industry has come, because you'll look at YouTube And there's different security awareness training, basic security awareness training. You can search different webinars. I've gone out to, because we use a couple of vendors. I've gone out to their websites and they have webinars and, PowerPoint presentations and white papers. So if you want that information, it is out there for you to find.
It is. And one of the things since COVID, and now that our events are in a hybrid mode, I mean, we get, probably 200 people that watch our events virtually, and we have events every other week. And I'm shocked at how many people are tuning in virtually, which is great. And they love it that we are giving them, because not everybody, it's not even about COVID anymore. We are getting great turnout because you have the people that love to go to in-person events, but then you have the people that just don't have the time. I mean,
Right.
They are on a security team and they need the training, but they can't afford to leave the facility. So they love that we do give them the opportunity. And that is the time where they can listen to our speakers and still multitask and do their work and still get their educational credits from our events. So yeah, we have, I do believe since COVID, I do believe that we have opened up a window for more virtual opportunities for people to educate themselves. Again, I think it is just the rest of the non-security people, the people that just go to work every day to, there's a lot of people that just go to work to get a paycheck and, that they don't care. So I feel like I feel for the security teams of how are you ever going to change? We always say the biggest problem is humans,
Yep.
so when is that not going to be a problem? Probably never.
Never.
And what do you do about those people? What is your strategy if somebody keeps clicking, on something and are you firing them? Or are you taking them aside and trying to train them? What is your policy for the people that won't comply?
Yes. So I remember the CISO of Xerox, and I think that was Dr. J. So I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. So I remember sitting, because she spoke, and I remember her saying that as Xerox, they had a policy of if you, click, if you get caught, with the phishing attempts 3 times in a row, you get fired. But I sat there and I'm thinking to myself, well, again, it's always my premise that people just don't know. Like you tell them, it goes over their head. They read it. They don't know what they read. They can't understand. So I just feel like, that's how we have metrics. That's why we have metrics into play. So, if we have, the staff who just doesn't seem to be paying attention, right? Because I'm at the utmost of belief that somebody just doesn't want to go to work to get fired. Like, I don't think somebody will be like, oh, I have my job. I love it. It pays my bills. Let me just go and just do wrong. I honestly don't think a lot of people are like that. So if we see a repeat offender, it is my belief to, pull them to the side, and maybe they just need their own security awareness training. In the past, I've done 2 sets of trainings for 5 specific individuals. So the first training was a live training, and it was very interactive. So I would say something and then I'll have them, repeat after me. Was, believe this, an article, based on whatever specific security incident that they, were just not understanding. They will read that article, and then I would have them give me a 20-sentence, write-up on what they learned. And Kim, when I tell you, when they do this write-up, they come back to me like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know. That was such a phenomenal read. I didn't even know. And I'm just like, And mind you, I've been teaching we've been teaching this. It's documented. But because they get that, I guess, one-on-one specific attention, and you're focused on them like, okay, give me a right. They're just in, like, I just didn't even know that if you have just a simple password, it can be easily breached. Dictionary words, we should not. And I'm just like, okay. And from then on, we have not seen, them being a repeat offender. So, I will always say training does it. look at those metrics. If there's a person that's just, not, because, there are times where you have automated training programs. Not everybody can afford to do live training programs. You do have learning platforms. They go on and they take the training. There's some, I've been in organizations where some staff just will not complete that training. Well, guess what? They're not going to have access to their system until they complete that training. So, it's like we just have to guide them by the hand,
Yeah, I guess we have
yeah.
come a long way where, you do have the power to not give them access, especially if they are on a company laptop, that you have to be on your VPN. I would assume that's what you guys are doing.
Yes.
So, I mean, that at least, it's you're that's one step further than, what it probably was, 15 years ago. So
That's true.
and do you feel like that happened more, that people started creating their own VPNs? And the government probably always has, like, because even back when I was in the military, I don't, remember what it was. There was barely computers, but there was still, you were still in some sort of, in the military network. So do you
Right.
feel like since COVID that companies have created more security on their own VPNs? I mean, they were kind of
Yeah.
forced to, don't you think?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely, Kim. Because as yes, with COVID, of course, a lot of us who are more extrovert got bored sitting at home, so we wanted to go to Starbucks and log in and do work there. We wanted to, when we're at the, airport and we're traveling, we wanted to get a little bit of work there. And we have, oh my goodness, we got free Wi-Fi, and we all know free Wi-Fi, that's not it. We can't to use free Wi-Fi to access our infrastructure. That's a no, thank you. So yes.
So when you're at the
Has,
airport,
yeah,
yeah. So when you're at the airport, don't click on that free Wi-Fi. So you would say pay for that. Do you really think there's a difference from the one that's free, or you can for 30 minutes pay $5 for the next tier up?
I would suggest to purchase or use the free Wi-Fi at the airport.
They say that next tier up supposed to keep you secure. So
No, what I would say, if I'm going to give real life basic examples is, a lot of people, we have our corporate devices or your personal cell phone. Turn on.
yeah.
Use that. Yeah, because, yeah.
Well, and that's probably a whole nother topic, and we're down to about 3 minutes left. And it's we're all busy, and if you're traveling, you have to have Wi-Fi. You have to get your work done. So that's
yes.
a whole nother show that I think that we could spend an hour talking about that.
Oh yes. Yes.
But so just before we wrap up the show, give us just a couple of tips for, how our listeners, again, what you would suggest, what do you want to leave with them, the best things that they could do tomorrow to enhance their cybersecurity training in their organization?
Absolutely. So I will make this quick, and I know it's going to sound simple, but please implement a security framework. Anyone will work. So I say this because a security framework gives you that blueprint. And I'm going to say it over and over again. It tells you what policies you need to implement, which procedures, which controls you need to be implemented. Now, yes, I am in this 853 girl. That's very extensive and expansive. But if you are an organization that does not have a security program or a formal, right? Because we always have some kind of a security program. But if you lack a formal security program, feel free to start using with, the smaller frameworks. So think ISO 27001, phenomenal. SOC 2, also another phenomenal. So if you wanted to start out small and then, kind of grow into and again, I'm going to use the NIST cybersecurity framework as an example, do it. And the two that I just mentioned, the ISO 27001 and the SOC 2, they talk about training. So, we talked about training. They talk about, implementing a security program. They talk about what different policies and procedures you should have. They talk about, passwords. They talk about multi-factor. They also talk about contingency planning and incident response planning. So that's what I would like to leave with our viewers today.
Well, that is amazing. Thank you, Dr. Dele Bankole, the Director of
Yes.
IT Security at Center of Employment Opportunities. You can come see her at our Philadelphia event on May 6th. Thanks for being here, Dr. Dele, and I'll see you soon.
Yes.
And again, thank you everyone for joining another episode of And Security for All. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. If you happen to be out at RSA next week, try to look us up. We'll be having our bourbon event next Wednesday night at the Chieftain Irish Pub out by the Moscone Center. Thanks, everyone. I hope everyone stays safe, stay secure, and I hope you get to enjoy this beautiful spring weather. And we'll see you all next week.
See ya.